Investigators.
Welcome to the Boo-Foons Mystery Investigators. I'm Dan.
But I'm tired. Sorry.
Hello, Tired. Never met anyone called Tired before.
I know. Sorry, Dan. Yes, it's been a long day. I think I've been cursed.
Yeah, well, Tired is our new co-host. He's replaced Steve. Steve was too controversial with his opinions, and we've now got Tired instead.
Trust me, it doesn't get any better. Tired may just be worse. That was it. And I'm Steve. Welcome to the podcast.
Oh, excellent. Don't just love how professional we are at doing this, we just, because that's definitely being kept in. That's
This is scripted and rehearsed to an inch of our lives.
It's very hard to believe that people don't realize that this is scripted, and we spend all that time scripting this to every single word, and we're definitely not making this up as we go along. Well, not all of it. The bits we're making up is us talking, like now.
And the bits we're not making up is when we're quiet.
Yeah.
Where we don't say a word.
Well, this week on the Boo-Foons, we are going to talk about a trip. Now, those of you that follow us on social media would have seen a post go out, whether it was TikTok, there was a video, Instagram, I think there's a few pictures, and Facebook, there's a few pictures. I think we put a couple on Blue Sky and X, but nobody really uses Blue Sky or X. So you may have seen it on Blue Sky and X, you might not have done, but I think there's only about one person that follows us on like Blue Sky or something and actually comments.
I think that's me. That could be me.
Well, you're the only person that follows us on X, and Karen, who we met at the Ghost Hunt, she follows us on Blue Sky and occasionally comments. Other than that, I don't. Oh, and Blue Sky is also where we get accused of being AI robots.
Yeah. But if this was the future of AI, seriously, we got nothing to worry about.
Yeah. However, you would have seen, because many of you are following on Facebook, Instagram, and TikTok, you would have seen that we visited Boscastle, and to be exact, the Museum of Witchcraft and Magic. And today's episode is and that was right back in October, which seems like an eon ago now, ages ago. But
yeah, I can barely remember any of it then. Yeah, so you may have to remind me. No, it was a really good day, wasn't it?
It was a really good day. Good thing you bought the guidebook, though, because you've got some information there. Yeah, and I can see it in your hand. And those of you listening can't see that he is holding it up. Steve is holding the book and waving it around. Those of you watching on Patreon, because you've got the exclusive unedited video, can see him waving it around.
And the reason I'm not going to open it here is because it's full of boobs and bums. We found that there's a lot of boobs and bums in Witchcraft,
and willies.
Lots of willies too. Yes, willies, boobs, and bums.
Yeah, and we had to drive past a willy to get there.
Oh, we're going to talk about it, aren't we? I forgot. Yes, we're going to have to talk about our trip.
We are going to have to talk about our trip because that's what this episode's about. So,
yeah.
So the main theme of this episode is the Museum of
Boobs,
Witchcraft
bums, and willies. Oh, sorry. Yeah.
Yes,
different museum.
About that. It's the Museum of Witchcraft and Magic, but also about our trip to Boscastle. Because it was a bit of an interesting day in general. And I will admit, although we are very silly, the museum... I learned a lot, and I think it's also given me some ideas for, well, both of us, ideas for future episodes that we can explore further. But yes, we left yours, and to get to Boscastle, we had to drive past Brown Willie. I'm going to get it out there straight away. Brown Willie. I need to talk about Brown Willie. Brown Willie made me laugh. Good thing Steve was doing the driving, because I suddenly looked on my phone and saw we were driving past Brown Willie. And
you were laughing so hard, I almost pulled the car over because I didn't know what the hell. It was just unnaturally loud. Unnaturally loud. That was. It's Brown Willie certainly tickled your fancy.
It did.
You couldn't talk for ages. It's almost like you had something in your mouth.
Yeah, Brown
And it was
Willie.
you blurted out Brown Willie, and it's like, where?
And then I pointed at, well, the internet and geographers would class it as a mountain, although it was more like a very disappointing hill on the landscape.
Yes. So if
Um,
anybody tells you how big Brown Willie is, it's a lot smaller than you think. It's
yes.
its reputation is bigger than its size.
And I will say, if you want a laugh, go onto Google Maps, find Brown Willie, which is in Cornwall, and look through the reviews. There's a review on there which has been beautifully crafted. I can't remember the lady's name who's written it, but her review is something along the lines of, I had a brilliant time on the tip of Brown Willie. I've wanted to fit Brown Willie into my day, and all the innuendos about Brown Willie.
Yeah. And she's definitely going to
Yeah.
come again.
Yes, and then there's a
Yeah.
picture of her sitting on the marker point on the top, to show that she was on top of Brown Willie. Um,
Yeah. We didn't drive to Brown Willie because it just, there was just too much of a bush around the base of it. We just figured there's never going to be anywhere to park.
So I had to get it out there at the start of the episode. If not, that's just gonna, the whole of this episode, I'm just gonna be thinking, when can I mention Brown Willie? Had to get it
I
out
mean,
there.
that should have honestly been a sign of things to come with the amount of, say, Willie's boobs and bums the entire day consisted of.
It should have done, yes.
And
Yeah,
Brown Willie was
boss.
actually the smallest of them.
um, but yeah, but boss, and we also drove through the abandoned RAF base from World War II, where we're suddenly driving along what was a runway, and I suddenly go, "Where are we?" Because it looked like we were in some sort of post-apocalyptic dystopia. And then I looked at Google Maps. It's like we're casually driving through an abandoned RAF base, and this is a main road. Okay, fair enough.
And it's amazing. I mean, it is an hour from where I live. I know you had to drive 6 hours to get to where I live,
Yep.
but it only took an hour to get to North Cornwall. And it's like, why do I not visit this place more often?
And it was a
I
beautiful
definitely.
place.
Oh, the weather was shockingly bad though.
Yeah, we almost got blown away.
Blown off the cliff.
Yes.
But wasn't. Well, I mean, it wasn't really a cliff, but compared to Brown Willie, it was quite big.
But it was a cliff. It was a cliff edge, wasn't it? It was at the
It
end
was.
of, it was at the mouth of the river, the natural harbour that was there that we walked around. Um,
Yeah. And apparently that's one of the reasons why the place is full of supernatural powers. It's because of how the valley is and it draws
that it,
energy, strange energies down the valley.
yes. And one of the locals in Boscastle was telling us that a lot of people move into that area because they feel their powers are stronger whilst they're there, and they experience the paranormal a lot more. Like the pub that we went in, the Cobweb Inn.
Yep. Which
Um,
I guess we could talk about the cobweb, couldn't we, before we got because there's a lot that happened, a lot happening in Boscastle. We were actually considering going back and actually spending some proper time there. I mean, for example, the haunted pub. Um, there's the haunted hotel. There's a haunted gift shop. There's the haunted bakery next to the haunted gift shop. Uh,
which
Pretty much
sold very
everything is
nice
haunted.
pasties.
Oh yeah, well, we were so hungry. God,
Yeah. There's a
definitely
picture of us on
ex-
social media tucking into those pasties.
experiencing Brown Willie certainly worked up an appetite.
But the Cobweb Inn, if you go to it was on their Facebook page, there's CCTV footage of a poltergeist throwing a bottle off the shelf.
Yeah, we watched the footage. We sat there by it. We could see where it happened.
And it led into our
Hmm.
theory of haunted pubs. Of it was made of stone. The whole area was just slate, wasn't it? The valley was slate. The
Yeah,
brick, it was
and
thick stone bricks as well.
that's the other thing. Because of the building being thick stone slates and thick stone, it very unlikely any vibrations. Also, there's no heavy traffic passing through there, so it wouldn't have been vibrations that pushed it off the shelf. The shelves look pretty solid as well,
Yeah,
unless and it's 6 what was it 6:20 in the morning. bottle goes flying off a shelf.
Although the
Or
staff
does
did
it
inform
fly or does it
us.
fall?
Well, it wobbles on the shelf and then falls, but it was
Did it
quite a
fall or
way
was it
back.
pushed? Yeah.
It
Yeah.
looks like something was moving it.
Yeah.
And the staff did say that it has happened several times, but this was the time where there was no one around, which is why they put the CCTV footage out there because, and they did say they've had paranormal crews go down and they've found a few strange things, which is one of the reasons why we want to go back because the day we went, it was very busy. There were loads of people in there eating a Sunday roast.
Yeah.
So
One
we couldn't
between them.
really.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then as you said, there was the hotel which we got no chance to look at, which would be great to go back. There was that lovely lady in the gift shop who
Yeah.
told
We
us
don't say too
about.
much about that because you can't say too much about that because we got a feeling she told us more than she should have told us.
Yes, but she did say that she has given us contact details, and when we managed to go back to Boss Castle to do a deeper investigation of the mysteries there, she is going to talk to us about some of the things that she's experienced and put us in touch with some of the other locals that have
Hmm.
experienced paranormal events happening,
And I
which would
think
be
this,
very cool.
and I think what we got to say about if that episode ever happens, depending on the feeling of the people involved, it will be a serious episode as well. That's the thing. We won't be able to joke around with this one because it's talking about people's religions and their beliefs, very strong beliefs.
Well,
So
this is exactly why, with this particular episode, I wanted to get Brown Willie right at the front to get my giggles
yes,
out. Because what we
so
are going to, when we actually get to the point of talking about the museum, a lot of it is quite serious because it is religion and people's faiths, beliefs that we're going to talk
mm,
about. Yeah.
yeah, we got to yeah. It is just because we don't necessarily understand it doesn't mean we shouldn't take it seriously, and we will take it seriously. Absolutely.
Which is
Um,
why I would love to get some guests on who do believe in various forms of witchcraft. Maybe it's whether it's Wiccan, pagan, whichever branch they believe in. I would love to get somebody on the podcast to talk about their experiences, their faith.
mm,
I would love to hear that because I would like to understand it further.
yep, definitely, and it looks like it might just happen.
Yes, and
At least,
hope,
at least sometime. Yeah, at least
yeah,
sometime.
it would be great.
And
Um,
if we can find a witch, even better, because then we can talk about the things we learnt in the museum.
we can, which is a brilliant segue into let's actually talk about the museum.
Yes.
So it is called the Museum of Witchcraft and Magic, and I understand it's the largest in Europe. I believe it's the largest witchcraft museum in Europe. I don't think it's the largest in the world. I think it's the largest in Europe, but it is dedicated to the witchcraft and magic of Europe. However, a lot of the stuff that we saw was more very local to Cornwall, Devon, Dorset, and the South Coast. There were bits elsewhere nationally and internationally, but a lot of it was based around the South Coast.
So, the history of the museum itself, it didn't start off in Boscastle, did it? It was
No,
elsewhere.
I love the history. It's a very and it's got a bit of drama in there as well. Love a bit of tea. It started in he tried. Cecil Williamson was the person that set it up after the Second World War, and he originally tried to set it up in Stratford upon Avon, but the locals were like, no, 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 don't want that here. So he then opened it in Castletown, which is on the Isle of Man, which is where it started. And a lot of the folklore that they collected linked to the fairies, witches of the Isle of Man, and he started to grow his collection. And I believe at that point it was called the Folklore Museum of Superstition Witchcraft or something similar to that. Um, and yeah, he started collecting loads of ephemera. That's the fancy word that I keep forgetting. Loads of ephemera to do with witchcraft. And he then was joined by Gerald Gardner, who was a Wiccan. And there was a sign up, say, in the actual museum that we went to with a picture of him saying that he was the resident witch. And I believe it said something along the lines of he was the last living witch, male witch, or something like that.
Yeah, was it 1909 or something? I think it was going back to 1909.
Yeah. So it was Gerald
And,
Gardner. Yeah,
and so that was interesting as well because they had a list of many of the names of many of the people who were killed as being witches, and there were surprisingly a lot of men's names there as well. So
there
what,
were.
we just expect it to be women. I mean, to be fair, we do hear time and time again about the horrible way that women have been treated over the ages, but at least we know there was a bit of equality and men were also treated particularly badly. And witchcraft was used as an excuse to get rid of them too. So, but yeah, very interesting that this photograph of the last living male witch,
Yeah.
just some old bloke wearing a cloth cap.
So yes, he had Gerald Gardner move into that museum in the Isle of Man as the resident witch, and started to and Gardner was promoting Wicca. That was the type of witchcraft and faith that he followed, was because he was Wiccan. And started to practice that away from his main coven, which his main coven was based in Hertfordshire, I believe. And then eventually there was a bit of an argument between the two men, and Williamson sold the museum to Gardner, and he was going to move it into. This is back to Williamson. He was going to move it to London, but again faced because it was the 50s at this point, faced lots of opposition, and then opened it as the Museum of Witchcraft in Windsor. However, it didn't stay there very long in Windsor because the locals didn't like the idea of having witchcraft in the area. So he then moved it to Bourton-on-the-Water in Gloucestershire, which is a very beautiful little place. Well, I don't know if you've ever been to Bourton-on-the-Water. It's got a lovely river that runs all the way through it. Very beautiful. Um, However, whilst it was in Bourton-on-the-Water, they had people putting signs up, putting graffiti up, hanging dead cats in trees, and also an arson attack because people of Bourton-on-the-Water wanted the Witchcraft Museum out of the way. So in the 60s, Cecil Williamson, finally finds a new home for the museum, which is in Boscastle. So it moved there in 1960, and he started in the current building that we visited, and he displayed a few artifacts to do with ceremonial magic, folk magic, and the practices of witchcraft. He did retire in 1996 and sold the museum to Graham King and Liz Crow. Um, Now, they are pagans, so not Wiccan, they're pagan, and they actually practice witchcraft and because they do believe in the pagan faith. And the brilliant thing that I love is the deal of buying it from Cecil Williamson was signed on midnight of Halloween 1996. That's when they signed the paperwork to sign it over. Brilliant. I think that's a brilliant bit of marketing there.
It's all in the timing.
And it is all in the timing. But Graham King and Liz Crow, they actually changed some of the displays and exhibits. So at the time, there was quite a lot of, the mannequin that we saw of the witch in there. There was a lot
Yes.
more mannequins and waxworks, and there were displays of people on what you call altars, and you can find a lot of these pictures out there. And they
It
also,
was a lot more London Dungeons, is what you're saying.
yeah, it was very London Dungeons when they took it over. So they got rid of a load of those and then changed it to be more like what we saw when we went back in October. And at the time, they did get, and this was in the late 90s, they did end up with Antiques Roadshow visiting there. They also had was it Joan? When we first walked in, there was a whole sign about the corpse of a witch.
Yes.
I can't remember the exact details of that, but I know they were the people that buried the witch.
You did take detailed photographs of this information. But whilst you're looking that up, I just want to point out that it was a terrifying experience, really, when we turned up. And the fear, just driving into Boscastle, I could feel the tension and the fear levels rising when we saw Morris dancers.
There was a lot of Morris dancers.
Morris dancers. I have a genuine fear of Morris dancers. I remember being very, very young and being hit on the head with a lamb's bladder or whatever it was they were using. And I hated them ever since. And then to see them all together in one place, it's like, this is just like hell. It might as well be in a clown convention for what I'm concerned.
And I will admit, the thing that annoyed me about the Morris dancers wasn't the fact that there were loads of them there doing their dancing, which is irritating anyway, but it was the fact that they were right in the way of the door of the museum. There was a whole car park, that whole space they could have been in, but no, they had to block all the entrance. And then when I was saying, excuse me, pardon me, I'm trying to get through, I'd like to go to the museum, pardon me, and being all polite, they're looking at me and being really angry with me because I want to go through the crowd to get to the destination that they are blocking. It's like, who are you? Don't be so entitled just because you're dressed up as clowns, with handkerchiefs and bits of rag hanging off you. I want to get to the museum.
Yeah, I mean, they're so perfectly better, much, much better places, like, for example, in the middle of the road or right on the cliff edge. But two places that would be far more apt for them to be doing their thing.
All right, well, I've found the story. So it's the story of Joan White. She was a skeleton in the museum, which was owned by Cecil Williamson. So Cecil Williamson had wires holding the skeleton together, hanging inside the coffin, and it was said to be Joan Wyatt, who was the fighting fairy woman of Bodmin.
Fighting fairy, yes, that's it. It's all coming back to me now.
He purchased her from an antique dealer. According to his records, she was born in 1775, died in Bodmin jail at the age of 38 from pneumonia in 1813. Joan was famed as a clairvoyant, and people would seek her services as a seer, diviner, and a healer. Later in life, she became very ill-tempered due to a tooth abscess, and she would shout at people. She often became involved in fights where she exhibited remarkable strength, and people came to believe that she was possessed by the devil. She was eventually thrown in Bodmin jail, not for witchcraft, but for public brawling, and it was there that she died. She was on display in the museum, but in the 90s, which is when Graham King and Liz Crow bought it, there was a number of poltergeist activities. And a Cornish witch called Cassandra Latham Jones was brought in to advise, and she said that Wyatt's spirit wished to be laid in a proper burial. So Graham King, who had just taken over the museum, set about giving her the proper burial that she deserved, and she was finally laid to rest with tobacco, a clay pipe, a drop of brandy, oils, some herbs and incense in a peaceful wooded area close to Minster Church. So they arranged the burial of her, and they've got a little memorial and some photographs all set up and dedicated to her in the entrance of the museum. So that happened just after these new owners took it on. A few years later, in 2004, there were some heavy floods in Boscastle, which did destroy the ground floor of the museum and a few of the exhibits. But they did restore it. However, so the latest Museum in Halloween. So again, Halloween, midnight, 2013. Graham King transferred ownership of the museum, its collection, the library, to the designer and curator Simon Costin, who founded the Museum of British Folklore in 2009. King still owns the building, which is leased to Costin's museum, but Costin um, is the person that owns the museum to this day. So that's the history of the museum.
I I thought you were going to bring up the most interesting thing is when the after the floods that sort of tore through. It was a very serious flood. It destroyed so many houses. I remember it being on the news, but it tore through everything, left wreckage and ruin, and the rescuers thought they'd found a body.
Oh
So they,
yes.
yeah, you finished telling that one.
No, no, no. You finish.
Yeah,
I've only just remembered what you're referring to. Yeah.
so they thought they'd found a body. So yeah, somebody's died. Turned out it's just one of the display dummies from the Witchcraft Museum. So yeah, it was. I can imagine the sheer panic when they actually found a corpse underneath the wreckage, and then found out it wasn't a corpse at all. It was just a waxwork of a witch.
Which is the waxwork witch that we saw when we went. It's the very same one.
The waxwork witch.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So there's a bit of history of the museum, so you can sort of get an idea that it has passed between different people that do believe in various iterations of um, witchcraft. So it's been through Wiccan and pagan hands, and currently belongs to somebody who, well, is run by somebody that believes in folklore. So this is all set up by people very passionate about learning about witches, learning about local history, learning about the folklore of the area. Um, so we were both very excited to go because of all of that information. And then we got
and
there.
we were
Yeah.
excited about the boobs and the bums and the willies too.
Well, I don't think we really knew about that until we started walking around. It was when we walked in and that sign was there saying about the displays show nudity and things of a sexual nature. And both of us
Yep.
looked at each other going, oh. And I will admit, it wasn't quite as X-rated as the sign made me
No, it
think.
was it was anticlimactic. Let's just say that.
Yeah.
Yeah, but still, it was still interesting. I'm not going to say don't go because it didn't live up to its reputation. Bless you,
Yeah.
sir. Bless
Well,
you.
the thing is, and I will admit, I did learn quite a lot about witchcraft because the witchcraft that I know about is all very much TV and film, which they did have displays talking about, and the depictions of the 70s and 80s TV shows where witchcraft was linked to Satanism and sacrifices and all of that sort of thing. But, sorry.
Sorry, I was just going to say, yeah, that was really interesting because when we were looking at, I don't know if this is what you're going to say, but when we were looking at all the displays of the proper old witchcraft memorabilia, nothing mentioned anything about Satan or Satanism. That just happened
Yes.
in the 70s or the late 60s, 70s when it became entertainment, when Hammer Horror took over and they linked Satanism and witchcraft together. There was no mention of it in anything really.
No.
It was just magic. And it was only once it became an entertainment property was it linked then to Satanism.
And that's it. That's exactly where I was going to go with that. And even that display that talked about witches in popular media, it was interesting how since the 60s, 70s, there's been this big growth of what we know as witches. But before that, witches, when they were mentioned in books and fairy tales and things, were more like the actual historic witches, as opposed to these ones that have these black hats and warts on their nose and green skinned and cackle and what have you. That was all sensationalized.
Mm.
But yeah, that was exactly where I was going. That I've learnt so much about proper witchcraft and traditional witchcraft from our visit. And yes, a lot of it is very sexual, and a lot of it's around. Well, when we say sexual, it's all about fertility, wasn't it? Like there was
Yes,
the
yes.
clay jars shaped like boobs, and that was to do with pregnancy and making sure that the mother had enough milk to feed her babies. Um, that's what that was about. There was the penis, a lot of the penis things, and that to show fertility. Yeah, it was all to do with being able to produce children.
Yeah, and this, my favorite display, of course, apart from the mushrooms, was the
Oh, the
Flint
cock
Willie,
rock.
the cock rock, and the fanny magnet, whatever it was called. That was a fanny stone. Was fanny stone?
Yes, well, I actually have the letter that was with the cock rock. So it says, please find enclosed the cock rock, which has been in my family's possession for many generations. My great grandmother told me that as late as the 1920s, women wishing to conceive would put the stone under their pillow on the night of a full moon, and they were guaranteed to be with child within 9 months. I'm sending this to you in the museum anonymously, partly because no one in my village now believes in its powers, and also because I feel your museum is the best resting place for it. I don't want to start more gossip among the younger come lately in the community. Please look after the stone, and I hope your visitors find it interesting. So the cock rock was actually donated from a family that believed in the witchcraft around it. And yes, there was the Fanny Stone next to it, which that was Joan Long was a West Country cunning woman, and she used this stone to aid childbirth and prevent miscarriage. Joan called the rock her Fanny Stone, and the stone does look like a vulva.
Yeah, and this is how we got Carry On films. This is That's Life for anybody who was born in the 70s. This is That's Life, but just with minerals rather than vegetables. Um, but there's a lot of it, isn't it? There's a lot, and I really think that we look at the old witches when they were talking about them, and they were just wise women trying to get help with pregnancy. There didn't seem to be anything really negative as far as sort of curses until later on.
Yeah, we said about the
Um,
toadstool and the mushroom.
mm,
So that was there because it said nature is fertile as all things seek to procreate. Mushrooms exist to spread their spores. Sex is part of the great mystery of life. This is how we all came to be. This is where life comes from. And that's what that big mushroom was there for, to symbolize that.
yeah, it's fascinating how it looks. I mean, yes, it was a bit of a giggle too, but that's just because I'm immature. Um,
Yeah, I will admit, yes, we are being very serious about this, but there were several moments walking around the museum, we were nudging each other, giggling like school children,
good boys, yeah,
going, going, look at that, there's a booby shape, there's a willy over there. Um,
yeah. To be
so
honest, quite ashamed of her behaviour.
yeah, I'm just glad no one was there to record or see us, but
Yeah,
yeah,
no, nobody was. Yeah, there's no record of it anywhere
yeah. So there was a lot of
apart
things
from
to do
here now. That's
apart from
admitted
here.
to it. Yeah,
Yeah. So a lot of focus on fertility, which I found fascinating, to be honest. I didn't realize that there was so much witchcraft dedicated to fertility.
I mean, to be honest, it did seem most of it was. To be honest,
Yeah. Well, you said about the spiteful thing. You spent more time looking at the voodoo doll type things in that area. So
oh yeah, that's my wife has always used. She calls people a poppet. You're my oh little poppet. Never knew where it came from. It just was a cute word. And then looking through the museum, there's a whole display of poppets, and poppets are basically British witchcraft voodoo dolls, um, where people would curse somebody. They would make an object. They would use something that somebody had, or make a representation of somebody. Just exactly what you imagine. But it was going all the way up from ancient, some, really old days, up until sort of even World War Two. There was a
Yeah.
there was that knitted female sergeant doll that was actually hung with a noose, and the whole story around that was this officer was just really abusive to the other women that were serving under her, and they actually knitted and created a puppet to hope that she would die, and they hung this doll. But yeah, the puppets, there's all sorts of things going back to basically fashioning and something in the image. There was the other interesting one as well. There was a nurse, pregnant nurse puppet, and there was a dagger in the belly, and it was basically this was created by a nurse who back in when abortions weren't allowed, and she was hoping for a miscarriage. So she created an image of herself and then put a dagger into the fetus, basically into the baby. And so even trying to stop things like pregnancies, and to kill people that you didn't like. There was an interesting one, which was the shoe. Do you remember seeing this little tiny ballet shoe?
Yes, the ballet
So,
shoe with all the
hmm,
pins in.
all the pins and the rocks in it, yeah. And apparently that was taken by one of this ballet little ballet dancer's competitors who just didn't want her to take the star and role. So she stole one of the ballet shoes and basically put pins and nails and needles and broken glass and stones in it. And it was hopefully stop her dancing. It didn't say if it did work or not, but the
Yeah.
poppet is, that was something I found out. Poppets, I told my wife, you call something a poppet, that means you're going to make a doll and probably stab them with needles. So she's probably not going to use it anymore. They had good ones. They had Hitler and the Kaiser.
Yes,
Hitler bending down with trousers down, pins up in his backside. That was it.
and there was a Donald Trump with them as well.
Oh yeah, yeah, the modern Donald Trump. So yeah, so it's even gone into
Yeah,
modern days as well.
it is.
But
Um,
very
yeah,
fascinating. So yeah, magic and wartime. So it wasn't just the Nazis who were doing had ties to the occult during World War II. It was also the Allies as well, and even
yeah.
afterwards.
Well, I can't find much verification for this, but there is a thing that suggests that Cecil Williamson during the war worked with MI6 to look into witchcraft to figure out what the Nazis were doing with the occult and counteract anything that they may have been doing with the war. Now, I can't actually find full verification of whether this was actually a thing that was used during the Second World War, other than a couple of things that mention Cecil Williamson. But that was a thing that's quite interesting. And I'll tell you what, which display has stuck in my mind since we were there, other than all the boobs and the willies and the bums. It was the ingredients for potions,
Yeah, that was good, wasn't it?
that big bookcase where it was all of the things that witches can use for making potions and it was basically a bigger version of my spice rack. That's all it was. It was just a bigger
Yeah.
version of my spice rack. It had everything that we would go to the supermarket to buy to put into our dishes. The rosemary, thyme, sage. If you can think
Hemlock.
of if you could think of a herb or spice, it was on the display, and the licorice was in there. Um, yeah, and that I found interesting, and and the reason why I found it interesting is because Chinese medicine still uses a lot of these ingredients to
Mm.
this day. And there are a lot of people that believe in homeopathic remedies and will go out and buy things like the common one around winter time is echinacea for cold and flu. Now, the interesting thing about echinacea is recently the NHS have started to say that there might be a case for it actually helping to ease symptoms of cold and flu. So instead of just saying no, they've actually said evidence and research suggests that it may actually help. So not saying that it does or it doesn't, they're saying that actually out of the sample that the NHS have looked at in research, there is a good case for it. However, they can't verify whether it's that or just the immune system. That's the sticking point. They can't really tell if it's the person's natural immunity or whether it is echinacea. That's why they say may. Um, but yeah, a lot of people say, and I know that there are things that we now use in medicine, like the Romans used willow bark, didn't they, to chew on as an antiseptic, which anesthetic, sorry, that ended up being used. And we've spoken about mandrake before and its uses. So there are claims there, but yeah, I can't remember the point I was trying to make there with the herbs, but that was the thing that really stood out to me is that technically by just putting a few herbs in my cooking, I'm doing witchcraft.
Yeah. And I think if anyone deserves to be burned at the stake, Dan, it's you because you're cooking.
I'm a very good cook.
Says the only person who survived eating it. No,
There are
you are a
several
very good cook.
there
They
are
are very
several
good.
people who have had my cooking have said they like it. Um, but
But
yeah,
what's the thing? This the Cecil man, was you said he was a filmmaker, which
yes,
explains why we kind of had the feeling that the majority of the exhibits in the museum were related to films and TV shows. And it was
yes,
some. I got to admit, there was a point when I was thinking, which of this stuff is genuine and which stuff is just story, modern storytelling.
yeah,
How many of these things are actually genuinely what witchcraft was, and how many of these things here are props from Hammer horror films?
yes.
It's just, so yeah, that was the thing. There's some lovely costumes in there, like the goat god, whatever it was, the goat-headed costume, which would have been fantastic at Halloween, dressing up in that thing, walking around. It's like 10 foot tall, green robes and the goat head. Do you remember that?
Oh, that's the god from the Wicca faith. That's a
Yeah,
Wicca. That's a Wiccan god.
I mean that'd be creepy walking around with that, wearing that thing. But also a lot of the artwork was quite modern. Pretty much most of it was just really modern, and it's just like how
Most
much
of
of it is genuine, and how much is just stuff that's just modern day folklore rather than old folklore. How are we actually getting the facts of what really did happen to these witches? Why they were all these people accused of being witches?
yes, and there was and it's like there was the sign up that said about the moon rake of Southley. But of course, the instructions for using the moon rake was by Cecil Williamson, the original founder of the
Mm.
museum. And there were other bits that said, according to Cecil Williamson, like the whole thing about Joan that I said about earlier, the skeleton. The records that they've got about the skeleton were what were written by him. However, when they did research to find information about Joan, there's no record of this lady ever being in prison in Bodmin jail. So maybe she had a different name. If because they've got it was a real human skeleton. Um, so yeah, I don't know how much of it was Cecil making a story up or how much of it is genuine.
Still very good though. I would definitely recommend going to the museum.
I would. We also learnt how to have firm skin and supple breasts.
Oh yeah, 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 yeah. I gotta try that. I need to try that one. Oh man,
That that
seriously.
that was the waxwork witch that told us how to do that spell. So
How you got the
this is
spell there?
this is me trying to remember off the top of my head, unless you've actually got it written in front of
No,
you.
no, no. I got to. You
Um,
what? Research something.
if if I remember rightly, um, you go out at midnight, and it has to
Yep,
be on a full moon. You go out naked, you run to an
of
apple
course.
tree, you climb the apple tree, and you take the apple from the highest point of the apple tree. No other apple, it's got to be the one from the highest point. You eat the entire apple, including the core, the pips, the everything, the whole of the apple. You then climb back down from the apple tree and you go round the apple tree, I think it was 9 times in a counterclockwise direction.
Hmm.
And then you go to bed naked You're not allowed to wash. You can't wash. And then I like the fact that after it said about washing, it specified hands and feet. Do not wash hands and feet. So as well as washing, not washing the rest of your body, definitely don't do hands and feet. And then you go to bed, and then the next morning when you wake up, your skin should start to become supple, and your breast should be firm.
Yeah. So my theory about that is anybody who's actually been fit enough to climb to the top of the tree in the middle of the night, eat an apple, climb down, run around the tree, then get back home, has probably got supple skin and firm breasts anyway. They've got to be pretty fit.
Yes,
I
definitely.
know I couldn't do that. If I went, I'd have fallen down. So I'd have been the one in a crumpled heap with a broken neck on the base of the tree. Yeah, he didn't make it. Look at the state of his breast. And that is not firm skin. Or firm, that's not firm anything. Yeah. Um,
Yeah, it was a very fascinating museum. Well, you've got the book of information
mm,
about all the individual exhibits that were there. Um,
yeah.
but I would love, now that we've been and seen quite a lot of the exhibits, actually, uh, I will explain to the listeners the reason why I'm not saying too much about what is there at the Witchcraft Museum is because I do think you should definitely pay it a visit. You should definitely go and visit and experience it for yourself. I'm not going to list every single exhibit. There was a lot there, an awful
Mm.
lot there. We're just recounting our
Yeah.
favorite exhibits and things that stuck in our mind. Um, yeah. Oh, the other one was the mummified cat. Do you remember seeing the mummified cat upstairs near the poppets?
Mhm.
Um, and well, it's a petrified cat. It wasn't a mummified cat. It was petrified, and it was
Freeze dried.
found in the wall. In the wall cavity of a house that was knocked down. And it
In the
turns out,
wall catavi. No, catavi. No, cavity. Catavi. I don't know. I can't do it. I'm
yeah,
just not clever enough. But I got a picture of that cat. It's very dry.
yeah, and I believe it was put behind the wall as a way of stopping mice and rats from getting in the building, if I'm correct.
Yes, you are indeed correct. So if anybody has mice in their building, just kill a cat, stuff it in your wall.
I think I read they didn't even kill it, they just put it in the wall. It was alive.
Ah,
And the
lovely.
reason why they think it was alive is the position that it is looks like it's trying to escape.
God, that's so rough.
Yeah.
No, no one gets scared away the mice. If they did that to the cat, imagine what they're going to do to us.
Yeah. But there was also a mouse next to it as well for the same reason.
because
I
it got
remember
stuck
there
in the
was a
wall.
mouse next to it as well.
And there was an exhibition on piskies, and they even talked about mandrakes,
Yes.
and they had what else they have? There's so lots of things we've actually mentioned as well before,
Yeah,
and a
it was
lot of
quite
things we're going to look into in future. As definitely.
well. What we
Let's go
could
back to
do if we manage to go to Boscastle again and actually do the stay over in the haunted hotel and get a chance to interview people, hopefully some witches, that would be cool.
yeah. I
Um,
want to know from a witch how what they think of the display in there. So somebody who
yes,
actually is a practicing witch or Wiccan to go round, let us know what they think about it.
yes, because I genuinely want to know how much of it is sensationalized, how much of it is fiction and based on TV and film, and how much of it is actually based on real proper witchcraft.
Hmm. Yeah, I think that'll make a good one. I think so. If you're a witch, please get in touch. It'll be a
Yeah,
real scoop for us. And we absolutely take it seriously because I just say want to know what the truth is. If
yeah.
this is just nonsense, if we should listen to it. I mean, what's in the museum? I mean,
I just want to know which bits in that museum are proper witchcraft, which
mm.
bits do we disregard completely. Yeah, and then the weird thing was the museum, the whole time I walked around it, I just kept sneezing.
Oh yeah, you didn't stop.
That was really weird. I still can't explain that
Yeah, but you left
because
and stopped straight away.
yeah, I was fine before, I was fine after. It was just as I was walking around. So there was something in there that was clearly not settling right.
Yeah, and I kept trying to avoid you because I was just embarrassed, and you just kept on following me around, sneezing.
Yeah, that's because we were looking at the exhibits. Um,
I was trying to get away. Just back, it's sneezing all over me. I think I finally feel well. I've had a cold for like 19 weeks, and then all of a sudden got sneezing all over me.
but then we left, and I was completely fine again.
Yeah.
Apart from when I got in the car, and you told me
Oh,
off.
I don't. And do you know how bad that was? I don't swear. You make me swear at you. Yeah, that was. Okay, I'm going to say this because Dan will cut it out anyway, so I'm just going to say it. But
I'm not going to cut it
even
out.
the the day before we had been out or whatever it was, and Dan was passing wind, and it was so foul. We were out with a friend, and he doesn't actually want to see Dan anymore because of the smell. He thinks he is possessed. And then he sat in the car. We were talking about it just after going around Boscastle. It was cold. It was raining. We had to have the heat on, and he forces out the biggest, wettest
Right.
fart. And I thought he followed through in my car.
I
And
didn't
the
force
smell,
it out, right?
you forced it. Your face
I,
went red. You
right,
lifted
I
your
didn't
cheeks.
force it. It just came
No,
out of
no, no, no,
nowhere.
no.
And I will admit, I did also think I'd pooed myself.
Uh, I had to put the window. Rain was coming in, and I turned to him and said, "What, Dan? What are you doing?" Not quite in those words, though. It was shocking.
To be
Shocking.
fair,
I did tell you to get out the car as well, didn't I? And you didn't.
you did. You were going to leave me in Boscastle.
I was going to leave you. I thought if we had that the night before, I'm not going to have this again where we can't breathe
And
for an hour to
actually,
drive back.
the night before, I said to you, whilst we were watching the film, because you were walking out to go to I think you were either going to the toilet or to get a drink or something, and I said, go the other way because I've just farted, it stank. You didn't believe me, and you decided to come right past me, and then you then moaned about how bad it smelled. So actually, your friend didn't really smell it because it was only on my side of the room.
No, no, trust me, it went upstairs. When I was coming down, you could still smell it.
So maybe I needed some witchcraft to happen to, fix my body.
Well, I think that was the signs of a classic exorcism.
Yes, that's what the
Yeah.
sneezing was, and that's what the big fart in your car was. It was the evil demons leaving my body
Oh,
because I'd been cleansed in the museum.
you needed to be cleansed after that. Seriously.
Yeah.
You
And
did.
what a way to, yeah, here we are being all sensible talking about witchcraft, and then suddenly this is the point in the episode that we always get to where we start talking about random things.
This is why our viewers count keeps going down.
Yeah.
Don't blame them, really. You know, we're never going to get a serious witch to actually come on the show with us because they wouldn't even risk it. Do you know what though? If they could have a spell to make sure it never happens again.
Oh, that would be amazing. I am up for anything. So I am happy if a witch wants to come on and perform a spell, or even if we meet up with an actual witch, either a pagan or a Wiccan, whatever, and they want me to drink some sort of potion that's going to do something, um,
Hemlock.
or make me sit and do a ritual or join in anything that they want me to do like that, I'm happy to go ahead and do it and give it a go. I'm happy.
It gets cleansed from the inside out.
Yeah. Like this is how serious I want to take this and our research into more witchcraft. That I'm happy to go along to a meeting of witches and take part in anything and everything.
You know, it normally includes being naked, don't you? That's what we learnt at the museum.
Yeah, and I know I'm not the most body confident of people, but I'll give it a go. I'll give it a go for the sake of research and for the
That's
sake of the podcast.
that's how serious
Yeah.
you are. I mean,
Yeah.
that is going above and beyond, definitely.
Who knows? They might have a spell to make me feel less body
Well,
conscious.
yeah, it's go up an apple tree, eat an apple, run round it,
No,
Go
that's to
back to
make my
bed.
skin nice and my breasts firm.
Well, that'd be a start, wouldn't it?
Well, yeah. Maybe if I diet and go to the gym as well, that might also help. Anyway, we should probably draw this episode to a close because I can't think of anything else I want to say about the Museum of Witchcraft and Magic other than I urge as many listeners as possible to go there because it's very interesting and fascinating. And
Yeah.
also that if you are a witch that's listening, please do get in touch. We would love to learn more.
And we would probably go back again. Well, we definitely want to go back to Boscastle again, and
We
maybe we
do.
can arrange a proper visit with the museum and talk to them about it.
That would be great. And to visit the haunted hotel, which we didn't get a chance to go
Yeah,
to.
a ghost in
Uh,
every room, apparently.
Near enough every room, yeah. Then we can probably also talk to people in the pub properly. The lovely lady in the shop that we did have a little conversation with and find out more about. She was telling us about a, a ghost dog and a ghost customer. But it would be better for her to talk about those on
Yeah,
here.
that's right. Because she didn't
Yeah.
see it, but her husband does, and he still doesn't believe it, even though he's the witness.
That's a recount of our little trip to Boscastle and specifically the Museum of Witchcraft and Magic. We would like to go again. So thank you for listening. And, if you don't already, do follow us on all the socials. Give our Patreon a look as well, because our Patreon has got loads of exclusive stuff on it, including the full uncut video. So the bits that we have cut out of this. Yeah, because who knows?
There will be a lot cut out of this one.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, and leave us a comment on our social media. Where was your worst fart and how bad it was?
And did your friends swear at you and tell you to get out the car?
Get the car. Yeah.
Are you now having to stop doing a podcast because your friend won't talk to you or be in the same vicinity as you anymore? Please let us know about breakdowns of friendships.
That's right. Podcasts are now only done online. Until we're going to meet up now.
Yeah, we have to travel to each location separately. Not allowed to be there at the same time. Yeah, I will go to court and fight this restraining order. I do think it's very unfair.
Yeah, but if you have to produce the evidence, if I have to produce it, I could, if anyone smelt that, Dan, you would restrain, you would not be allowed into Devon.
Join us next Wednesday, and thank you for listening. And if you're still here, thank you.
Yeah, thank you even more. Yeah. This is what somebody on YouTube says. Leave a comment in our, comments that says something like sausages, and then we'll you've listened all the way through to the end.
Yeah. Like, subscribe, bell icon, all of that stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, a lot of YouTubers do that at the end. They go, leave sausages in the comments to let us know. Yeah, they do that.
We'll give you a shout out on next week's episode.
Yeah. Oh, the guy.
I was going to say, if anybody wants to be acknowledged with this one.
Right. Actually, I'm glad you've reminded me, because at the time of recording this, our Jack-o'-lanterns episode has been out, our Halloween special. And in our Halloween special, we mentioned somebody that put a comment on one of our earlier videos and corrected you about boglins and boggarts.
What's he about this time?
No, nothing. But I just wanted to say that his name was John. So, John, thank you for listening on YouTube, and thank you for leaving a comment, because he has left another comment saying, "Woo, that person." Yeah, well, because I couldn't remember his name when we recorded the Halloween episode.
Okay.
So I just said there's a man on YouTube that's left a comment about this, and I couldn't remember their name. So I referred to them as that person. So John has actually commented saying, "Woo, that person." So John,
well done, John.
This is probably ages after. I don't know how long after the time of recording this is actually going to go out, but thank you for leaving that comment. And it looks like Karen's also left a comment on that video as well, saying, because we mentioned about the fact of how we were accused of being AI on Blue Sky, and she's put, You're AI, but I've actually met you. I've had no idea that computers were so clever. Now, I will also say we're not going to read out every single comment that's put on social media. We just appreciate it when people do. So there's some, well, there's some special shout outs to people that have commented and said hello to us. And that was both on YouTube. We've had some things on Blue Sky that have been quite nice, mostly from Karen.
Thank you, Karen.
Facebook, we've had a... Sorry.
It is nice to have feedback. It is nice to have feedback. I really do appreciate it.
It is. And Cliff from the N64 podcast, who was a guest here on our Hitchin Ghost thing. He put, I can't remember which social media platform he put this on, but he listened to the Jack-O-Lantern episode, and he learned from you about the Michael Myers mask being William Shatner's face. He didn't know.
Awesome.
So he actually learned that.
Something new.
Yeah. So that was a comment that I can't remember which platform he put that on, but on one of them. There's also somebody on TikTok called Boeing Edits, and their whole channel seems to be video clips of planes.
I thought you can see this whole channel just correcting me.
No, it's somebody who is obsessed with the fact that I look like Daz Black, the YouTuber, and that you are his friend Will. And between us, we are basically off the hook. And on every single TikTok video that's released, it's him going, "Hi Daz, hi Daz," and he's now got to the point where he's now tagging the real Daz Black into our TikTok videos, going, "Hi at Daz Black." It's like, yeah. So this person's convinced, and even though I am not as handsome as Daz, and we're not as affluent as Daz and Will,
you've got more effluent. That's for sure. Effluent is sewage waste, so that is you. Yes.
Oh, well, there we go. Perfect.
So you are far more effluent than Daz, I guarantee it. Sorry, yeah. Somebody else we had another message.
Yes, on Facebook. Do you remember Cornwall Pub Special?
Yes.
Do you remember the very lovely Jim and Les?
I do. They were very lovely. Did they reply? Well,
Les is following us on Facebook, and she, I can't remember which video she put a thing to the other day, but she liked and made a comment saying, "Well done, boys." I think lovely. It may have been, I can't remember which episode it referred, but it referred to one of the the video that was released referred to one of our episodes that's been out. So she wanted to wish us well. So that was lovely. Nice throwback to Jim and Les. Yeah. And also, I don't know whether I'm going to keep all of this talking about social media in the actual episode or just Patreon only, but whichever I've decided to do, you've found out by getting to this point in the episode.
Yeah, and if you don't, you can always use it as a little bit of an extra just to put up.
Yeah, but if I have left it in the actual episode, we are actually genuinely going to sign off now and say goodbye now. So join us next week.
Nothing to lose because nobody ever listens this far. And if they do, let us know by posting the word sausage meat in the comments below.
Yeah, right.
I can't believe I picked sausage twice. Yeah, bye.
Until next week, stay spooky.
We're sober.
Yeah.
Boo-Foons, mystery investigators.